What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And as you guys can see, we are back with another mock draft. My apologies, I know we were going to do the mock draft Monday. I've just been swamped with homework, but we're going to go ahead and still get this one out. This one's going to be a little bit different though today. We're going to be focusing solely on the AFC teams, and later on this week I'm going to be dropping the NFC teams as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications. If you are already subscribed and tuning in, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate everybody who tuned in to the last mock draft. I honestly did not think it was going to go that well. But again, I appreciate everybody who tuned in, left a like, left a comment. I did consider all the feedback, so please don't think that it went to waste. And I appreciate everybody who left a comment as well. Again, it does help me boost the algorithm. So be sure to leave a like, leave a couple words on the comments below. With that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it, y'all. All right, and as you guys can see, I have all of the AFC teams highlighted, so we're going to go ahead and get on into the mock draft. And first up, we have my New England Patriots, and I know talk of the town has been, let's get a tackle, let's help the line out. I'm going to be completely honest, though. How are we just going to pass up on a weapon like Travis Hunter? Like, are we being serious right now? There's no way, honestly, no way I'm looking at a prospect like Travis Hunter and going, nah, let's take a tackle. Like, what? Dude, this is a generational prospect right here. Something that we haven't seen in ages. There's no way my Patriots pass up on this type of opportunity, because if they do, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have a knit fit. I've seen them pass up on so many weapons throughout the years, so many wide receivers that we could have had. I mean, this has to be the safety net pick if Mayo wants to keep his job going into next season. There's no way you look at Travis Hunter and don't go, nah, let's not make him the number one pick. Really? With that being said, though, let's get on into the Bengals. And wide receiver being a position need doesn't move me, because they're talented at wide receiver. I mean, even if T. Higgins walks, which I don't think he does, they still got Jeremy Burton from Alabama, who honestly is just waiting for some more opportunities. So I think best pick right here in this case would be Mason Graham. Graham, he's an absolute unit as well, 6'3", 320. He is a bruiser on the football field. And I think this is a great pick. They need somebody that can help that run defense. Need somebody that can really, cause damage in the interior for them. Obviously, Hendrickson being one of those guys on the edge. They need somebody that can really help out on the interior defensive line. And getting into the Jags, this is a team that I think needs to look at linemen immediately. I think they need to do a better job at protecting Trevor Lawrence and Etienne, because I'm going to be honest, all the injuries that they've been having to endure are absolutely ridiculous. And this is really where you can kind of do a pick your poison. If you want to go Will Campbell, or if you want to go Kelvin Banks, they're the top two prospects that I've heard through the grapevine. Kelvin Banks being 6'4", 320. And then Will Campbell, who is literally a fridge with legs, 6'6", 323 pounds. I think right now he's probably going to be the number one tackle taken off the board simply based off size. Obviously has a lot to do with how well they do at the Pro Bowl. I think right now Will Campbell will be the first tackle taken off the board. We'll have to see how the remainder of the season goes and how well people do at the combine and stuff like that. But right now, from what I'm hearing through the grapevine, because again, like I said during the last mock draft, I'm not the number one guy when it comes to grading the trenches, especially offensive linemen. But from what I hear from my peers, from what I see on PFF and stuff like that, Will Campbell is as good as it gets at tackle. So we're going to go Will Campbell at 3. And getting into the Browns, I'm going to be honest, they have an option. They really do. They can take a quarterback here, because you really have to ask yourselves, if you're in the Cleveland front office, do we think Deshaun Watson is, the long-term guy? It's been, 2-3 seasons now? And, I mean, injuries, mids, it really, it's your choice how you want to call it out. But I don't think Deshaun Watson has, that spark in him that he used to. Obviously, being away from football for so long with all the scandals and stuff definitely took a toll on his game. And you need to find an option fast, because the last thing you want to do in Cleveland is fall back into the gutter, because that's honestly where they're headed if they keep up with this Deshaun Watson nonsense. Now, I'm going to be honest. Do you want to go after a guy like Cam Ward here? I don't think Jalen Milroe I'm going to be honest. I don't think Jalen Milroe is the first quarterback taken off the board. I don't think he fits this scheme at all. You kind of want a pro-ready quarterback. I mean, there's 2, 3 if you want to count Carson Beck. I personally don't count Quinn Ewers. Too many injuries for me. Cam Ward, Shedeur, and Carson Beck. But, I mean, I don't think Shedeur goes and plays for Cleveland. I'm going to be honest. As much as, we don't think Deion's going to impact where Shedeur goes, he's not going to play in Cleveland. I mean, I can assure you that. I mean, come back to that if he ends up getting drafted there. But I think right now, for the sake of this mock, we got to take Cam Ward as the first quarterback taken off the board. And Cleveland desperately needs something. I mean, the weapons are there. Cooper's there. You got Njoku at tight end. Chubb's going to come back from injury. And we really don't know how much that injury is going to impact Nick Chubb. Do you want to go after a running back here? Do you want to take Gene T as a top 5 pick? Because honestly, I mean, I wouldn't take another running back in the top 10 outside of Ashton Gene T. But I think right here you kind of want to go Cam Ward and just set yourself up for the future. And one thing I did do, I just want to take into account, I took down the randomness and I took down, team's biggest need. And coming as a surprise, Jalen Milroe went to the Panthers and Will Johnson went to the Rams. So something to take into account for as we get on into the Titans, who I think are going to lose DeAndre Hopkins are going to lose DeAndre Hopkins this season to a trade. I think he desperately wants to be on a team that's actually going to compete. Now, you can kind of go quarterback here if you're the Titans, because I don't think Will Levis is the guy long term. Now, again, I don't think Shedeur is going to want to play in Tennessee. Stranger things have happened, but it really depends on who's going to be there and the weapons around him. I think Carson Beck would be the safety net option here. You could run the risk of, saying, you know what, let's go ahead and give Will Levis another year. Kind of like how the Giants did with Daniel Jones. You can kind of just say, let's go ahead, run it another year. You got Pollard on a contract. You still have a couple weapons there. Maybe get him a true wide receiver 1 like Tyro McMillan, who obviously going to be a little bit farther away from the West Coast. Could be a great fit there. Being 6'4", they need a big body wide receiver. They need somebody that can really help them. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of options for them in free agency. I think your best bet is just kind of getting your wide receiver in the draft if you don't want to go after a quarterback. So I'm going to go with McMillan at number 7. Now, getting into the Dolphins, this is honestly going to be a little questionable because of Tua. Like, do you run the risk of Tua coming back and potentially, damaging his future lifespan, really? Do you run the risk of going to a quarterback in free agency? Do you want to go after a guy like Mac Jones, who, I mean, I'm a Pats fan, so I know Mac Jones really isn't as good as advertised. Maybe McDaniels can turn him into a stud. I would have wanted Jalen Milroe to go here, but being that Shedeur's here and he's already said that he wouldn't mind playing in Miami, this is honestly going to be a perfect fit culture-wise. He's going to love being in Miami too, just because of all the talent that's already there. You're going to have Waddle, Hill, a Shane, Mostert if he's there another year. You got a good defense to back you up. They can get some more guys deeper in the draft. But Shedeur might be the guy here at 8 for the Dolphins. Now, Jets, this is going to be another team that they're going to look at their quarterback and go, is this long-term option? I think Aaron Rodgers has maybe, I'm going to be honest, like a year left of like solid football. I think the elite times are behind him. Obviously, he can still show flashes of elite play, but I think the elite years are behind him. And with Robert Saleh getting fired, does the next head coach run the risk of having Aaron at the head? Do you run the risk of even going after one of these quarterbacks now that the top 3 are taken off the board? It might be a little bit early, to be completely honest. They could trade back here, but they also could go for a wide receiver because, Garrett Wilson as your ex, put Luther Burden in the slot, put Igbuka in the slot. Could be, honestly, super dangerous. I wouldn't mind Igbuka going second wide receiver off the board, depending on, how the Patriots use Travis Hunter. I wouldn't mind him being a wide receiver. But Luther Burden could also be the guy here. Both of them having so-and-so years. Obviously, the tape is going to be there. They're both going to test extremely well at the combine. Isaiah Bond, who's a speedster, is going to test super well at the combine. Antoine Wells, who was a weapon this year. I mean, he's more of an X wide receiver, though, so do you want to go 2 X's? I think safety net, you're going to want to go Luther Burden or Egbuka. Could be a chance Garrett Wilson puts in that good word for Egbuka. I'm going to go Egbuka here. I don't think they need help on that defensive line for the needs there. And honestly, Raiders are going to be hurting here because Raiders really needed a quarterback. They were probably going to be in the running for Shadur, at least in my book they are. But you can look at the running back position now because let's look at the room right here. Zamir White, mids. Mattinson, mids. Amir Abdullah, super mids. Like, you can get a guy like Ashton Ginty and turn your entire franchise around offensively, at least offensively. Because defensively, I mean, they've been doing pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Max Crosby said he wants to be there for life. So you have a guy there. You got a Raider lifer, somebody that you can focus on defensively. And Ashton Ginty can be the guy that you focus on offensively. Right now, Brock Bowers has been making tremendous strides at tight end. Jacoby Myers is coming into his own. Devontae Adams is probably going to be gone. They're probably going to have to find an X wide receiver. But, I mean, it's not going to be hard to find somebody that wants to play in Vegas. Like, it's a great scene. And I think Ashton Ginty could be the pick here that really helps you turn around your franchise. Obviously, they've been building up that O-line for years. I think it could be a couple pieces away. Ashton Ginty, though, would be the pick. Do you want to go cornerback here? I mean, who are you going to take at corner? Do you want Benjamin Morrison? Could be a little early. Obviously, Chevelle coming off the injury. Or Ravel, I'm sorry. I just combined both of his names, Chavon and Ravel. Ravel coming off the injury. Ohio State corners don't have a whole lot of good history with the Raiders. I really think best pick here would be Ashton Ginty going at 10. I think he's well worth that top 10 pick as well. He matters. Running backs matter at the end of the day. And we've seen it with Jahmyr Gibbs. We've seen it with Bijan. They've helped, honestly, turn offenses around. During the playoff run, he really did have an impact on the Lions' offense. And Bijan, who I think just needs to get some better reps. You know, I think better play calling could do a lot more good for the Falcons. Because, yeah, Bijan's, productivity right now, it isn't what we honestly thought it was going to be coming into the Falcons' offense. So now we get into Indianapolis, and tight end being a need is honestly crazy for them because I actually think they have a really talented tight end room. Could go after a linebacker here. We could see our first linebacker taken off the board. Harold Perkins, who's probably done for the season, still has one of the better tapes. Hope he comes back to test. You could take Stutzman here, but I think Harold Perkins is going to come back. He's going to test well at the combine. You're going to see the tape. You're going to know that he's well worth that selection. Could go cornerback here. Could go Ravel. I honestly had Ravel. I think in the first mock, I had Ravel going to the Colts. I can't remember at what pick, but he could be a pick here. Benjamin Morrison could be a pick here. Obviously, everybody's looking at Benjamin Morrison a little differently just because he's at 6 foot, 190, seems a little bit underweight. It's kind of how everybody viewed Sauce Gardner too, though. Benjamin Morrison has tremendous tape. I think him and Ravel are two guys that you really don't have to question where they play. You kind of just got to look at the tape and understand that they have the dynamics to play their position very well. But again, I think Harold Perkins will be the first linebacker taken off the board in this year's draft. Me being an OU guy, I love Danny Stutzman, but what Harold Perkins can do on the field, playing the edge, playing the linebacker, great coverage skills. Danny Stutzman's kind of just one of those run stoppers, hard-hitting kind of guys. I think Perkins offers a lot more versatility as a prospect. And I really wouldn't want to take Benjamin Morrison or Ravel right here at 12. I really wouldn't want to take any of these corners up until maybe 15, depending on the team. I guess Niners could definitely be in play for a corner, but we're not drafting NFC today. So simply for the sake that we're drafting AFC, I'm going to take Harold Perkins at 12. And if we look at some of the guys that went, Malachi Starks went, Isaiah Bond went, Scorton went, Kelvin Banks, Benjamin Morrison, and Luther Burden. So getting into the 19th pick, we go to the Chargers. And Chargers, I think they could still be in the running for a wide receiver. Like, I think they still need weapons there. I think Ladd McConkey's a very talented guy. He's going to be one of those picks that turns out like Puka, where you kind of got to wait and he's just going to pop off. But he's been showing a lot of promise as a slot. Are you satisfied with Quentin Johnston? I mean, he's been making strides this season, but do you really want to trust that he's the premier wide receiver one for your team? I guess you could go tight end, and obviously Harbaugh being a big tight end guy could go after Loveland here. It wouldn't be too far off, 19, and he's a 22nd ranked player. But you could also want to go after, more depth at the line. Tackle not really being a need because you're kind of set there. But defensive line, maybe you want to get into the trenches in the defense. But looking at the class right now, I mean, I know Deion Walker's a talented player. TJ Sanders is a talented player. But I don't think you want to take a guy this early. Obviously, Harbaugh being a tight end guy, being a Michigan man, we could see Colston Loveland go this early. I personally think the tight end one of this class is Tyler Warren. Harold Fannin, I've already said it, is having a tremendous year. I think Warren's a tight end one, though, of this class. But we're going to have a little fun. Let's say Harbaugh rolls the dice and he goes ahead and he takes Colston Loveland at the 19th pick and gets Herbert another weapon. Then we get into the Steel City, and they're honestly really coming into their own. I think right here you kind of really just got to look at offensive line, and you got to ask yourself how we can protect Justin Fields going forward, because their offense it's starting to click. Najee Harris is slowly starting to get back into the swing of things. Wide receiver, I think they're set at. I think they have a lot of talented guys there that can really make a difference for them. Running back wise, they're set. Tight end wise, they're set. Defensively, you could go after a linebacker, but they're really talented in that room. I mean, do you want to go after a linebacker here? You could go after Stutzman. I personally think you could just go ahead and beef up the O-line. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You kind of want to go ahead and protect the future of your franchise, because I do think Justin Fields is the future of the Steelers franchise. Kind of a pick your poison here. Again, I don't know why Emory Jones is slipping. I actually think he's a very talented tackle from what I've seen, and I know through the grapevine he's actually tackle 3 on a lot of people's boards. I'm going to go with Emory Jones here. 2 safeties gone in the first, which I'm actually very surprised at because I put less for randomness. So if we could see safeties go early. I know I said it in the first mock draft. Safeties don't typically go in the first round, but this is a talented class, guys, when it comes to defenders. Coming into the Broncos, they're going to be a team that we could obviously see trade up. But for the sake, again, we're not doing trades in the mock draft. They have some needs that they need to address. I think edge could be one of those needs. Do you take Overton? A lot of people like Mykel Williams. I personally like Jack Sawyer, and I like James Pierce. James Pierce gives you versatility at defensive line and at edge. Really kind of a pick your poison here. Defensive line being a big need. I'm going to go with James Pierce here just because he does offer you that versatility. And then as we can see, Overton went, Jack Sawyer went. So a lot of need for edge when it comes to the back half of the first round. Now getting into the Buffalo Bills, who really, it's kind of hard to get into these really good teams and find a hole. Again, you could go after the edge here. Von Miller's not getting any younger, and it wouldn't be bad to find a predecessor for him. So do you want to go Mykel Williams? A lot of people are raving over Abdul Carter. Do you want to get another weapon for Josh Allen? Get AlecElijah. You kind of got Coleman, though. You kind of still figuring out how to use him as an ex-wide receiver. Shakir being the wide receiver 1 clearly this season. And you could also go corner, which wouldn't be bad here. Again, Ravel has a tremendous tape, and Bills do need help in the secondary. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but they do. But I guess for the sake, we're going to have to compare defensive line and corner for this draft, and it's really between Ravel and Deion Walker. So I guess it would depend on what the Bills really need, and in my mind right now, I think Bills do need help in the secondary, especially when you get into the offs. You want to have guys that you can rely on. Ravel's one of those guys that you don't really got to teach, when it comes to technique and stuff like that. Playing at East Carolina, a lot of people knock him for that, but Again, we've seen in the past, it doesn't matter where you play, as long as you can play the position soundly, the technique will transfer over to the next level. So we're going to go Siobhan Ravel to the Bills. And we get into the Ravens, and this is a team where, again, it's kind of hard to find holes, but secondary has been a big need to fill. Humphreys just not who he used to be. So you do got to get a guy who can come in and help. Now, do you want to go Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech, who I think is a talented cornerback and is going to rise up boards? Could have go Denzel Burke here just to be the safety net pick. Or you could go interior offensive line. Maybe go ahead and get Lamar some more protection. But I think that cornerback room does need a lot of help. Obviously, I think this class is very deep when it comes to tackles. I mean, every draft is pretty deep when it comes to tackles. But I think cornerback is going to be a big need here. Safeties, you're kind of set at. But go after a guy that can really help your team. Denzel Burke can definitely help the Ravens out in the secondary. So I'm going to go with Denzel Burke at the 26th pick. And we're getting into the last two picks. And these are two teams that really just need to find guys that can just fill holes and, figure out their role. Texans getting a guy like Quinshon Judkins or Omarion Hampton would be extremely scary, because if they get a weapon like that to go along with all the other weapons that they already have, that is absolutely insane. And Joe Mixon's not going to get any younger, obviously coming from free agency. Backups, they're not too crazy. Cam Akers maybe having a slow resurgence this season. But if you could get a guy like Quinshon Judkins, I don't know how you pass up on that option. And obviously another mouth to feed in the passing game, but as a runner, Quinshon Judkins gives you a lot of versatility, opening up the running game room. And I'm surprised to see running back as a need for the Chiefs, because I think Pacheco's going to bounce back from that injury, and I think he's going to perform very well. I think here you kind of got to look at tight ends, and you kind of got to figure out who's going to be the predecessor for Travis Kelce, because this is a talented room. You got Warren, and you got Harold Fannin, who's having a good year. Again, Warren is my tight end one of this class. So seeing him go to a guy like Mahomes is a little bit scary. Could be a reach here. Obviously, ranking them where they are, I think they're going to test very well and rise up boards. So for the sake, we could play and flirt with the idea. Offensive line does need some help, because we have been seeing Mahomes get a little pressure more than we are used to seeing in the past couple seasons. So do you want to keep it up with the Ohio State guys? You want to go with Wyatt Millman? Again, these are kind of guys that I haven't done a whole lot of scouting on, so it's kind of hard for me to just really depict where they would go here. I guess we kind of got to go best available for them. And if we look at their needs, tackle, tight end, running back, you could go running back, but I guess we're going to have to go Josh Simmons from Ohio, simply based off their needs, because it's kind of hard to predict what the Chiefs really need. When you have these really good teams, you kind of just got to look for holes, look at tape, and kind of just go, okay, well, they could use depth here. So we're going to go with Josh Simmons at tackle. And as we get to the finalization of this board, this is what we have for our AFC only mock draft. Again, we're going to have our NFC one dropping a little bit later this week. But here we go. You guys can take a look at it. Let me go ahead. I'm going to shift it over to the side so that way we can go ahead and get a full look at it. Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Cam Ward, Johnson, Jalen Milroe, Tara McMillan, Shadur, Emeka Ashton, Kenneth Grant, Harold Perkins, Malachi Starks, Isaiah Bond, Nick Scorin, Kelvin Banks, Benjamin Morrison, Luther Burden, Loveland, Emory Jones, Kevin Winston, James Pierce, Overton, Jack Sawyer, Siobhan Ravel, Denzel Burke, Cameron Williams, Arante Arsay, Elic Ayamanor, Quinshon Judkins, Josh Simmons, and Danny Stutzman. Again, that was AFC only, y'all. I'm going to be dropping the NFC one a little bit later this week. But go ahead. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of this mock draft. Let me know if you guys think I'm hitting the nail with some of these picks. Let me know if you guys think some of these picks are just completely off. Again, I appreciate all feedback. Be sure to leave a like as well. Be sure to sub if you're new. Again, I'll be back with some more college football content a little bit later this week, y'all. See you then. Peace.